big week for AI. This AI bubble had a huge sell-off there. The tech bubble seemed to potentially burst. A lot of people were saying I wasn't too fearful. I bought a lot of the dips and I was rewarded thanks to Jerome Powell, who got the whole thing fucking horned up with his meeting on Friday, and the stock market went flying up and it was a great day. I foresee the markets continuing, but there is a massive factor: Nvidia's earnings. If Nvidia don't beat, look, showing weakness, anything negative at all in their earnings report, the market's going to react badly. So we're really praying and hoping that Nvidia don't, I mean, even if they don't massively beat or anything, as long as there's nothing worrying, we should still see the market continuing. And I feel like the market's going to continue for at least another sort of 8 to 10 weeks, potentially even 12 weeks. We're looking a strong close to the end of the year, in my opinion, and that's what I'm banking on and praying for. We see the crypto run continuing. Altcoins had a good run there the last couple of days as well. I just think that everything had a natural, healthy cool off, and we're pushing on. And we'll have a look at some of the charts in a moment. So just have a recap then. We had on Friday the Jackson Hole conference. My experiences of the Jackson Hole conferences is that the market sells off. So it was a great surprise when Jerome got the thing fired up. He pretty much was alluding to that there's going to be more rate cuts, which obviously is great for the market, as we talked about in many videos. Interest rates are lower. It makes it easier to lend. They're not paying as much back on their loans. So it just makes sense that more profitability companies will perform better. So that was a good positive sign. And that's hopefully what will come down the road. So Nvidia earnings, PCE inflation data, what to watch next week. That's the key things. The inflation data, as we said, high inflation isn't good for the markets. It's going to put a pause potentially to Jerome's rate cuts. So we're watching for inflation. We want that to stay reasonable, in line with what the expectations are. Let's not get anything scary throughout us. That and Nvidia's earnings, which are on Wednesday. Now, we don't have the PCE data until Friday, so we've got the entire week. As long as Nvidia goes well, I fancy this week to be a good, strong week. Friday then will be the difference maker. If inflation's high, we're going to struggle. The weak dollar is encouraging for the stocks. That always does well. So we just want to keep inflation relatively, the same, as I said, and keep that dollar low, baby. There's a couple of ways I'm going to play this week. I'm just going to bank that Nvidia are going to do well. I'm going to keep my positions heavy stacked. I've got a lot of money invested in this market. I'm going to keep that way. If we have a good, strong sort of 3-4 days of the week, I'm going to trim before Friday. I'm just a bit worried about the inflation data. I think like all this good news baked in, I feel like it could sell off. I hate Fridays. I hate big data news on Fridays. We got lucky this Friday, but I just fancy the inflation data to maybe spook a few people, especially if we get a good run here for the rest of the start of the week. I'm going to trim. Just trim, sit back and watch the inflation data come in, not buy anything, and re-enter again on Monday. And I appreciate this is a very quick video. I'm pushed against time. I have to leave the house here, and I'm still feeling quite sick. I got a bit of flu during the week, so not been the best of weeks for me. But let's have a look here at the S&P, because we can see here how this performs. So we did have that sell off and everyone was kind of panicking. We've seen 1.7, maybe 1.8 at most sell off. Everyone thought this is it, it's coming to an end again. I wasn't so wary of that. I just felt like it was a little different than, say, here. It's just a sell off. It's just a bit of a cool off. Nothing too major. There was a few bad articles came out about tech. So we did see, and we'll look at the NASDAQ in a moment. We'll talk a bit more about that. But that's kind of what caused the market, because even when everything was selling off, the tech stuff, I still had good performance stocks. Dollar General, for example, TKO, those types of other consumer stocks, they all did well during the market sort of crash that everyone was saying. But you can see here what it's done is brought the RSI to a more neutral area. And then on Friday, we had that big pump, which is pushed up. So I feel like we're all right. The MACD still showing downwards trend. This is all in the day chart, by the way. So yeah, maybe something there. Now on the weekly chart, this is a bit of a different story, and we watch the weekly chart because it gives us a bit more of a gauge on the longer frame where everything is kind of sitting. And if you look at the weekly chart, it doesn't even look like there's been any sort of sell off at all. This has just continued to pump on, and that's maybe a concern from the bigger perspective. When are we going to get a pullback like this? And this is where I suppose you can see here, you get so many runs for so long, it's probably due. Again, I'm prepared for that. I fancy this week. That's why I'm going to trim on Thursday. I'll just let the data see, because I think if inflation and all that comes in on Friday, that could be enough to really signal this market to fall. We are entering that top overbought territory, but we're not at those levels. You can see here, this is when it sold off. See here, this is when it sold off. When it got to those really peak levels. Now, it didn't get to that level here, and it sold off massively. So we'll just have to watch carefully. It does still look strong, and I fancy this week to be strong, as I said. Now, on the daily, On the Nasdaq, similar story, sold off. Now the Nasdaq did sell off a lot more because of the tech stuff, 3.5% over the course of that week, and then on Friday we got the rebound. Again, RSI back to a more sensible level, so it shows you that there could be that cool off, could push on. MACD is still showing downside, and that's a concern again for the same reasons as it is for the S&P. And then if we look at the weekly again, still looks strong. Exact same really as the S&P. The Nasdaq, in my opinion, will be the more harder hit. The tech stocks are going to look like they're the most volatile in this situation. So all eyes on Nvidia. All eyes on Friday. Trade safe this week. We potentially could see a good pullback. I don't think it'll be anything more, any significant pullbacks. Again, I'm going to keep buying into this. I fancy us to have at least 3 months of positive growth upwards. Just my feelings. Do your own due diligence, of course. Apologies, it was a quick video. Just thought I'd get something out for you. See you in the Discord, and I'll chat to you during the week. Fingers crossed that everything goes smoothly. See you in the next video. Peace.